Righto, so I've been watching a whole bunch of YouTube clips lately on Triumphs and mechanical repairs on Triumphs and customisation of Triumphs, purely because I bought this 2004 Speedmaster about 2 months ago. So I've had a whole bunch of inspiration come from YouTube, so I just thought I would post a video of how my bike's coming along, just in case anyone else wants to get some ideas. So front end, you can see I've taken off all the stainless steel cowls and everything that go down the fork, all the fork leg covers. I didn't like those, I thought they were a bit heavy looking, sort of made the bike look a bit chunky at the front, and I prefer a bit of a finer machine, so I took off those and blacked out the fork legs, put some gaiters on, blacked out the top and bottom yokes. There's a bit of blacking out going on the headlights around there with the mesh, and I've put a little screen on it. That's not a Triumph screen, that's just one I made up out of some aluminium composite panel. Actually works really well. It directs the wind straight over my head on the highway, so it does make life a fair bit more comfortable, as well as looking pretty sweet too. So I've dropped the indicators down, little bullet type indicators onto the forks as well to tidy up that front end. You can see I've got some broomstick bars on the front, which is just a bit of gal pipe actually, just some stuff I had in the shed. Machined down the handlebar risers, did that on a lathe so it's all nice and even. Took them down about 40mm above the top yoke, and I was a little concerned about how it would handle with the broomstick bars on, but I tell you what's great. I mean, I'm a tall guy, so I've got a fair reach on me. I probably wouldn't work so well for the shorter statured fellas amongst us, but as a tall guy I think it's just great. It's really straightened out my back and made riding a lot more comfortable, and it turns really nicely too, like really sharp. The handling's really good. Just put some bar end mirrors on, they're just off eBay, they're just cheap ones. I did have to put weld some lugs inside the bars so I could actually attach them, because they're like an Allen bolt screw fastening system, so I had to put a nut inside, but that was easy enough. So taking off all the big old mirrors and basically anything I could strip away at the front end I did, just stripped it right off. And I come down in the front, I've taken all the heat shields off the exhaust, just cut those off with a grinder. I'm not a big fan of chrome, so all the chrome I can get off this bike, the happier I'll be. So yeah, just cut the heat shields off gently. If you just cut the welds off, the heat shields basically just pop off, and yeah, I've just blacked them out. Blacked out the exhaust that's there. I just like it a bit more. It's just that little bit finer sort of shape rather than the big chunky chrome things that were there. And I've got these new MGO cocktail shaker exhausts off eBay. Just bought them last week. $170 for the pair, which I thought was an absolute bargain. And I was a little concerned that they might be shit, but they're actually pretty good. I mean, it's just thin chrome plated metal, yeah, but for $200 or under $200, I mean, what a steal. The baffles in them were a bit shit and they were way too loud. So I've had to do some adjustment to the baffle. I sort of turned it into a cone shape so I could put some padding in there, some muffler packing, and that's just made it sound great. It's just taken out that high-pitched metallic sort of ping out of it and just brought the sound down to a reasonable level where the police won't get too cranky with me. Just got a car coming here for a sec. Right, so yeah, so the pipes, the way they are now, they sound really good, and they're letting the engine breathe really well. I mean, they make a hell of a lot of racket once you get up 5,500, 6,000 revs, but just cruising around town at 3,500, I mean, they're fine. No one's really going to look twice at you. It's only when you give it some that it just starts screaming. But it sounds really good, like really makes that parallel sound great. So now this is not your bog standard 790 either. This is a 988 big bore. It's been bored and stroked and sleeved. It's all been done really well. Thankfully the guy that owned it before me's done that, so I didn't have to outlay the cash. But I tell you what, it's such a different machine to the bog standard 790. I mean, this thing's just great. It's just got so much horsepower, so much torque. I really recommend doing it. I know it's an expensive exercise, but if you're going to keep your Speedmaster a long time, why not? Why not do it? You know, give yourself some extra ponies. I mean, it's just great. This is just so much faster than your bog standard Speedmaster. So I've got the CR race carbs on there as well, so you've got to supply a lot more fuel to the 988, and I'll be honest, and these CR carbs do suck a lot of fuel. I do have some rejetting to do now that I've got these pipes on, and hopefully I can reduce the amount of fuel it's using at the moment, because I know it's just burning so rich. So once I can get to a dyno and get all that checked out and know exactly what I need to do, then hopefully we can reduce the fuel consumption. You might see something really obvious here that I've done to the bike, and that's remove the forward controls, because I'm not really a forward control type of guy. Probably from a bit more of a sporty type past on bikes, and this is quite the new direction for me. But look, I just couldn't live with the forward controls. They were just driving me insane. I know, I mean, they're so popular, the forward controls, but for me they just weren't working. I didn't feel comfortable cornering. About the only place I did feel comfortable was sitting on the highway, and I don't really care much for all that, so I made myself a set of rear sets to go down the back. So this is about the third reset of the rear sets, in that the first time I put them on they were a bit too far forward, second time I put them on they were a bit too far back, and I just finished playing with them the other day, and I've got them in pretty much the right spot for me now. I mean, it's just great with these. You can put your weight on your ball of your feet and whip round corners like you can on a sports bike. I mean, it's just great. I'm just loving having the rear sets on this bike. It's just made this bike so much more comfortable and confident for me to ride, rather than having the forward controls. Plus it's taken off so much weight as well. That big bar that was across the front of the engine that was actually the mount, you see, I've taken that off completely. I mean, that was about 5 kilos just in itself, and the more weight I can get off this bike, the better it handles. So speaking of weight, I've taken off the rear fender totally, just took it right off and made myself a new one. And the old rear fender, I weighed it yesterday, was about 9 kilos worth of, well, just excess metal and vintage car look, I suppose, is the way I like to think it looked like. I mean, it's not an ugly thing, but it's just not my type of thing, that vintage car sort of arse end. So I've chopped it off and made myself a new one. Bit of sheet metal, bit of welding, bit of tapping with the hammer and shaping, and tried to sort of keep the shape of the tank mirrored into the rear fender as much as I could, and I think it's worked out quite well. In fact, I'm really happy with the way it looks, really happy indeed. So yeah, it's got a tail light off an old Honda scooter that I picked up at the wreckers. Had to modify it a fair bit to get it in there, but we did get it in there in the end. So the bike just looks a totally different machine. It's much slimmer. I think it's a lot more aggressive looking. I tell you what, it's a hell of a lot faster after taking off 30 plus kilos. It was actually 32 kilos of metal and everything that I've taken off the bike, the old parts and everything. So for you that's speaking pounds, it's about 70 pounds. Just like the weight of a small child I've taken off this bike. And it's just running so well now with all that extra weight off. I mean, it's so much faster. So anyway, I hope some of you look at that and like it, and it inspires you to do something to your trumpies. Thanks very much.